Welcome to another edition of Seahawks Forever, powered by Fast Fashion Brewing down on First Avenue in Soto. Check them out, some of the tastiest beers in Seattle. I'm Dan. Welcome to the show. Tonight we're going to talk about Nick Emmanwori, the outstanding rookie for the Seahawks. We're going to get some in-depth perspective on his game from Griffin Sturgeon of the Seattle Overload podcast, breaking it down in technical terms, the X's and O's of it, in a way that only he can. And Griffin was a guy who had his concerns about Emmanwori coming out of college. Have those concerns been completely rectified or put at ease? We'll find out after this. This is Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Now is the best time to sign up for the Sleeper app. If you've never tried it, it is the best sports app out there, in my opinion, and it's the number one fastest growing sports app out there. All sports, but we're going to focus on football, of course. You can play fantasy football there. You can pick games. You can do some of the games of skill, and if you want to get into that, they're just going to give you $20. You see it right over there on the right side of the screen. No deposit required. They're going to give you a free $20 just to get started if you sign up today, if you use the promo code FOREVER. But they're also, if you want to dig a little deeper than that, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100, 100%. Again, that's on the Sleeper app. Sign up for it today. Use the promo code FOREVER. Great way this weekend also with the Seahawks on a bye. If you're out and about and you want to just check on other games, maybe you've got a big fantasy football game and you want to follow it, or there's another team that you like outside of the Seattle Seahawks. Best way to follow games out there, play-by-play in real time. Check that out as well. Terms and conditions do apply on that deal. And if you would please subscribe to the channel, share it, like this video. It's the best way to support the channel and support me as a full-time independent content creator. Also, check out the QR code. Up above that is for the new and improved Patreon page. We're going to roll it out officially next week, but you can see some of the changes happening over there now. It's going to be everything that I do under one umbrella, including Seahawks Forever, Mariners Forever, my audio, my videos, my Substack, everything, one-stop shopping over there at Patreon. Check that out. All right, my conversation today with Griffin Sturgeon talking about Nick Emmanwori. We get into some other things too. What's it going to look like when everyone's back next Sunday against the Commanders on Sunday Night Football? How is that role? How's the snap count going to change for Emmanwori? And if you watched my show yesterday talking about Drake Thomas, how well he's played in the last 2 weeks as a full-time starter, how good that makes me feel, considering 2 years ago I was so excited when he was claimed on waivers. And the video I did that day, still the most watched video in Seahawks Forever history. We'll get his thoughts on Drake Thomas, as well as some thoughts on potential acquisitions, potential needs on that side of the ball with the trade deadline coming up in just a couple of weeks. Here we go. All right, Griffin, always good to catch up with you. I feel like it was about a year ago at this time that we got together and we had a similar conversation in some respects about Tyrese Knight, where you had your concerns about Emmanwori's profile through the draft process, some weaknesses in his game or things he needed to work on that you were concerned about translating as a rookie. So far, so good. I mean, he seems to be fitting in really nicely now since coming back from injury. How do you feel generally now about his overall profile differently than maybe you did a couple months ago?
For Nick, I think the number one thing that is jumping out that he's doing that I didn't think he was doing in college is that he's playing way more physically. And it doesn't matter what the assignment is, just whenever he's coming into contact with either a blocker or the ball carrier, he's just way more physical. There's way less hesitation. He seems to be way more confident in how to engage the block. And I had hypothesized that maybe why he seemed hesitant in college sometimes at South Carolina was because he didn't trust the technique and how to engage the block, where the hands, hips go, where the feet go. And I think Mike Macdonald's coaching staff has him to where he knows where he needs to put his hands. And turns out 6'3", 230, playing with good technique, he can ragdoll a tight end occasionally. And we saw that one play, I think against the Jags game, where he stacked up that tight end and tossed him to the side to make the play on that screen on the perimeter. So like that stuff is like, all right, yeah, you belong on the NFL football field from a physicality standpoint. Everything else, I will say, like, it's all a matter of perspective, right? I mean, my concerns they were pretty strong, right? But they were limited to certain categories. And the things that I thought he did well were in certain categories too. And by and large, I think those have held into the NFL and through 3.5 games he's played in the NFL, even if that were like three games in a drive, if you count that 49ers game. So, I mean, but he's such a young player that, like, anything he's doing well at this point is gravy anyway, because he's a rookie. And like, my philosophy with rookie years is like, they don't count unless something good happens, then great, But like Byron Murphy last year, I mean, he didn't play bad football. He played fine football, but it wasn't, this is the first round talent that we were expecting, right? Yeah. Year 2, Byron Murphy is every bit what we wanted to see, right? So just year 1's rookie years are so wonky. So anything positive is a good thing from my view. And if you contextualize Emmanwori in the bigger picture, it's like, well, the defense doesn't require him to be fully realized Nick Emmanwori in any way. Just let him grow. They can accommodate whatever, bumps and bruises along the way there might be, regardless. So, I mean, which to summarize, I think he's doing some things really well. And there are some things that I would like to see some growth in on film, but there's still lots of football left for him to do that. So I'm excited to see that arc.
It's interesting for you to talk about the physicality, because that's one thing where you and I were on the same page. Like during the offseason, when people started throwing the name Cam Chancellor around, just because it was an easy comp to make from a physical stature standpoint, I pushed back on that because I didn't see that in his game on tape. He wasn't an enforcer or a guy that intimidates in any way. And so, there was something that I didn't see either. Now, what they have him doing is so unique. And I know the word hybrid just gets tossed around now so much. Some of it out of necessity, because this is just the way of the NFL, and this is how defenses have evolved. We saw it 10 years ago. We gave up on trying to call outside linebackers and defensive ends what they really are. And we just call them all edge now, right? So anytime we don't know what a player is, we just call him a hybrid. But this might be the best case of that. Like, he's listed as a safety on the roster. He played safety in college. We heard that in OTAs and early training camp, he was playing some weak side linebacker almost in what his role is. PFF lists him as a corner as we sit here today. And now the term big nickel is being thrown around as if that's his actual position. What would you call him? How would you define what he's doing?
Well, he's doing what Devin does. He's playing nickel. He's playing nickel in the scheme. And it's to kind of roll that back to Devin really quick. Devin Witherspoon is, what is he, 180 pounds soaking wet? Yeah. But, they have him doing anything and everything you'd be asking a nickel cornerback to do in the NFL. So by virtue of that statement, Witherspoon is doing quote unquote big nickel stuff as well, which to me, big nickel, when we think big nickel, we think you're putting a safety skill set at nickel, right? And then scheming accordingly. But all the things you'd ask a quote unquote safety playing nickel, they have Devin doing, just because he's such a unique player, he can manage it. Now, I think by also playing having Emmanwori on the depth chart on the team, they're not really asking him to do anything like, say, 1st and 10 and 2nd and whatever nickel stuff. He's not doing anything different than Devin is doing. But I think it was more about, we don't think Witherspoon's body can hold up. Even though in any given snap, he can do all the things we would want him to do from that spot, we don't think he can hold up as the sample size continues to grow over weeks, months, years even. And plus, Witherspoon could also do stuff as a true outside guy. So enter in Nick Emmanwori. Now, when they're both full-fledged, healthy, playing, obviously it will be more, Devin will be inside against the 11 packages, and Nick will be in there at the 12 and 21 packages, right? Or at least in theory, both frankly can do 12, both can do 11. But so like what he's doing is, when it's 11, he's in there at nickel. So if most of their calls are zone, so he's going to be aligned to a slot formation. And if it's not a slot formation, it will be like a tight end wing, or just the tight end attached to the line of scrimmage. So that means he's got a zone drop, occasionally a zone match assignment, inside leverage or outside leverage, depending on the call. Inside leverage, usually if it's, say, cover 2, outside leverage if it's going to be cover 3. Occasionally they have him matching, or they have him being the flat defender, or they have him being the curl defender. So in essence, I mean, he's just playing, I mean, like half the time he's effectively a linebacker in terms of what they're asking him to do. It's philosophical. Like, what is a nickel in the zone call? Well, a nickel in the zone call is a Sam linebacker. But you might have them do spicier things, where you might have that guy match a seam route, whereas you wouldn't have, you know, whoever Leroy Hill match a seam route down the field. You know what I mean? So you can kind of amplify the assignments within that kind of framework, which is what they're doing, what they do with Witherspoon and Emmanwori. And then occasionally they will kind of they'll flare them out into their design calls, and they'll be playing a half shell in cover two. But he's not doing like the I'm Kyle Hamilton thing where I'm playing safety half the time and nickel half the time. It's more like you're just playing nickel, because that's really all the snaps they have for him. Now, I think Macdonald said that they're training him as a base safety as well. So we will see him there eventually. They just have so many bodies there that are effective players. They don't need to yet. I also think it's wise to train him at one spot. What's really the stuff that I like the most of what he's doing is when it's a pass down, late down, he's in the slot playing true man. I think his man coverage in the slot, especially in press, but he's getting better and off as well, is so good that I believe he could survive as a legitimate outside corner in any scheme. I actually think that's what he's meant to do. I don't think we'll get there, because they want his body type to be able to really thrive inside. And I think there's a little bit of a learning curve there. I think with the run fits where he's actually got an interior gap, I think it's a little wonky for him, primarily because of his eye progression, what that means for the run fit, and then run past conflict play action. And then I think his pure zone drops, like when he's just pure zone, eyes on the quarterback, and letting the formation and the initial releases of the receivers inform like which direction he melts. I think that needs some work. When he's having negative plays, it's usually in that realm, but like, I don't think he's had a single negative play when he's been one-on-one man coverage or a match assignment, especially with like outside leverage type of stuff, which is effectively man. So there's a lot to like. I still think there's some things to work on, but he's really just playing nickel, and he's just a different body type, which lends itself toward different things.
Yeah, you talk about not a lot of negative plays. PFF certainly likes him and what he's doing. Depending on what you think of PFF grades, but an 81.6 overall grade is outstanding. That puts him third out of 112 corners. See, there they go. They've got him categorized there, and they've got him as the number one overall corner in pressures. So they're using him off the edge a little bit in getting after the quarterback. What if you were, because you mentioned it, he was a very, very young player in his draft class. Came out after his true redshirt sophomore year or true junior year. He came out as early as you can, given the NCAA rules. Didn't take any of the extra years. Mm-hmm. If you were attacking him on offense, is there a chink in his armor that you've seen a way that you would go after him?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that they've got Commanders next on the schedule. I think Mike Macdonald, he's built to destroy that kind of offense. Just that's what he cut his teeth on in the AFC with all those spread offenses and the quarterback run game. But that said, it's interesting. Cliff Kingsbury, one of his it's almost a meme at this point, because he's just so this is almost the only trick in his up his sleeve. His run offense philosophy is motion. So if he is facing a light box or even a loaded box, he likes to motion the weak side linebacker out of the run fit, and then motion the nickel into the run fit to make the nickel do things that he does less often of, which is like true linebacker stuff. And then he also likes to play action that nickel. So the microscope, so to speak, will be placed on Emmanwori this game. They will be motioning Drake Thomas out of the run fit quite a bit, and Emmanwori will have to be sliding in. In the Jags game, he had one tackle where he filled. I thought he scraped into the B gap unblocked, but when there was motion involved, and he had to realize when I need to fall back or understand when they fold his initial key in or fold him out, his eyes were getting lost. And if you pause the play on the end zone angle, the coach's film for a lot of those plays, and you click play, the ball's snapped, and you click pause. Ernest Jones has moved his play side foot up and down already, and Emmanwori's not even moved his foot yet. That's because his eyes are in the right place. It's not a matter of foot speed. We know Emmanwori's foot speed is fine, but it's his eye progression. So he doesn't know what he's not digesting what's happening yet. And he gave up 3 plays of 5+ runs, or 3 plays went 5+ yards against the Jags because of him busting his assignment, or maybe not busting, but not getting there quickly enough, which is all because of his eyes. And then by the same token, off of the same structure in this in the last game they just played against the Texans, it was only 1 play, and that was the only situation where he found himself in. But that play action pass into the flat that went for, like, what was it, 13 yards or something. Again, 13 yards isn't going to kill you, but you want to clean that stuff up. He was late to read his initial pass key, releasing late because he was sucked in on the run action, and by the time he had to get into his drop, the flat wasn't leveraged, and the guy had a wide open lane to get upfield, and they got a first down on them. So that's the kind of stuff where he needs to work on a little bit. So it's anything where the run pass conflict is at play, is that I really think he needs to work on it, and it's all eye progression. But when it's 2x2 spread, 2nd and long, 3rd and long, and Cliff Kingsbury just sends his slot receivers yard downfield, I mean, he's going to be all over the guy. So, but yeah, for him to become a complete player, I do think it's him needing to kind of clean up his processing in the box.
Well, if that's what Kingsbury is planning, then he doesn't have a whole lot of tape to go on, because there's only 4 snaps worth of tape this year where we see Devin Witherspoon and Nick Emmanwori both on the field, both healthy at the same time. So I know you touched on it earlier, but expand a little bit on how you think that's going to look next Sunday night, and how those two are going to work together as far as snap share and role. You mentioned it, Devin's going to play more on the outside, which is something I've been wanting for a while, for exactly the reasons you talk about. I remember him going on John Gruden's show this offseason and talking about slamming into guards over and over again, having to play in the slot there, and that kind of made me clench up a little bit. But I also don't want him on the outside full time. I don't think that's his strength either. How do you think Mike Macdonald kind of puts those ingredients together? Yeah,
well, they're going to have a variety of options, different combinations of how they fit all of them. So some of it will be standard nickel, where Nick is playing nickel and Devin is kicking one of the corners off to the bench, probably Woolen, just the way the vibes, the tea leaves are being read there. So it'll be Job and Witherspoon outside. But then we might also see some big dime where he's effectively playing weak side linebacker, and he interchanges with Drake Thomas just to give him more reps. And then also, like, we might see, and I hope we do see some of it, they might try to put Emmanwori as one of the base safeties as well, just to kind of, can they give him a series or two where he spells maybe Kobe or Okada? They probably don't put Love on the bench. Maybe they need to, just to kind of on-ramp him from his injury, because it sounds like he'll be coming back after the bye. But if Love is on a pitch count and Devin Witherspoon's back in the lineup, I'd like to see if we can see a little bit of Emmanwori playing true safety as well. So, but it will be the like the dime Will stuff and him at nickel and kicking Woolen or Job off onto the bench probably. So
interesting. Now I want to talk about one of those other spots that you mentioned, because we've seen a lot of movement at the weak side linebacker spot this year. We all thought it was going to be Tyrese Knight again, maybe even looking forward to him taking a 2nd-year leap after playing pretty well as a starter and holding that spot down the second half of the season last year. And we still don't know to this day. He had the knee injury in training camp, but there was another medical issue mentioned at the time. He was out longer than we all expected him to be. We've never gotten any clarity on what that is, but he just doesn't look like the same player. Just doesn't seem to have the juice. Some people have intimated that maybe he's gained some bad weight. He doesn't look as fast. I don't think we know the whole story about what's going on with Tyrese Knight. But in the meantime, it went from him being the starter to Drake Thomas getting about half the snaps. And now the last 2 weeks, Drake Thomas getting the majority of snaps. He had 89% of the snaps on Monday night. He's the full-time starter now at weak side linebacker for the time being. Sounds like what you're talking about with Emmanwori and Devin living together At the same time, maybe Thomas comes off the field a few times. But just give me your thoughts on your overall impressions of Drake Thomas's performance. He's been filling up the stat sheet. He's been making splashy plays all over the place, but that doesn't always tell the whole story. There's still a lot of people that think they need to go out and maybe look on the trade market before the deadline to improve that position. Is Drake Thomas playing good enough football for this defense to win with him?
He's definitely playing good enough football for the defense to win. I think they can, even if weak side linebacker is a weak spot, the defense is good enough that they can accommodate that kind of being their team wart, so to speak. I do believe he's gotten better throughout the year. I mean, obviously Mike, I don't know if Mike's had an obsession with him. It might be more relative to what the alternative options are, but Mike has name dropped him a lot throughout the season. And just personally, like, based off of what I think I know, like I just wasn't seeing it. I thought he was like the whole, biting on play action thing. Like he's one of the most like egregious offenders I've seen in a Seahawks uniform personally, but the sample size was so limited. That's just based off of preseason. I'm sure in training camp and practice and stuff, it looked better for him. But, with Knight's injury, that gave Thomas an opportunity. And I do think that the early returns were like really bad, frankly, early on in the season. But I do think the Jags game, he's gotten better. In this game, he's gotten better. I still question the ceiling. Like you said, he's filling up the stat sheet. And my philosophy of kind of the weak side linebacker in the modern NFL, especially with too high, it's the position of like lowest consequence, or at least it's the easiest position to kind of scale down the importance of. So how I would view Thomas is that he's given low stress assignments playing behind a ferocious D-line. And it's easy to make plays that kind of show up. It's almost his good plays are the product of other people's work where they kind of tee it up for him. And he just gets to come downhill and just, he's the buzzsaw and they're just feeding him the ball, essentially, the offense is. And which, for a very brief period, we saw the same out of Jerome Baker. That fell apart. And then shortly thereafter, the same thing happened to Terrell Dotson. The D-line, the first half of last year, especially against the pass, like that first month looked amazing. And hey, the linebackers looked amazing. But it's like, it's really like those are replaceable plays, replaceable film from the linebackers, in my view. And it was the D-line just creating those circumstances for them to make plays. And then we saw in the second half of the year, Tyrese Knight. And while I do think he was an upgrade on Baker and Dotson, the ceiling wasn't there for me. I don't think he was doing things in coverage well. I think he was getting out leveraged to the flat a lot off of play action. And the spot dropping, the stuff going over the top of him wasn't there. And I think the injury put him in the hole this year. So it's not to say like, oh, I was right. And, I think he got kind of like the medical stuff got him. But I don't think that he had enough potential in Mike's eye to outright prevent Drake Thomas from being given the opportunity to, one, just show what he's got, but like allow him to grow. Like you don't really know what his ceiling might be if you don't give him, 100 snaps to explore what he's capable of. Because I mean, he does have a cool skill set. He's jittery, he's explosive, he's fast. He's probably undersized. The short arms don't help him. And on that point in this Texans game, he did some cool things, but I mean, he also gave up about 40 yards in coverage on about 3 or 4 attempts. 3 of them were first downs. 1 was a 9-yard gain. He gave up that touchdown in the low red zone. His plays against the run were like when he's being run blitzed and like the ball's supposed to go to the weak side linebacker position. So again, if you replace him with Knight would have made the same play. I don't think we have any reason to think Knight wouldn't have done the same thing. So it's kind of like because the investment has been so low at weak side linebacker, I think Mike is just throwing at the wall his depth to see what sticks. And also it doubles as an opportunity for Mike to keep the rest of the defense on their toes. Like, hey, look what happened to Knight. Knight was being lauded last year. Now he lost a spot, right? Like look what happened to Reek Woolen. If Reek Woolen's slipping at all, Job's going to jump him. And sure enough, Job, when they're in base and Devin's healthy, it's been Devin and Job. Now there's only been like 5 snaps of that. Yeah. But that's signaling to the rest of the team that, yeah, Woolen technically has been benched. Trace Knight has technically been benched, so look out. And I think Mike is kind of using Will as that kind of example for the rest of the team. And maybe I know this is just fan fiction, right? Maybe that's what has allowed Ty Okada to play with such confidence, like, oh, there's actual opportunity for me. Julian Love, our captain, is out. I'm going to go give this everything I got. Not that he's going to bump Julian Love, but he's showing the team, and he's showing himself that these snaps are actually meaningful, might set me up in my career, my contract for 2026. So I think it's all those factors probably combining.
So all that being said, the trade deadline is coming up on November 4th. And it's kind of funny. Yesterday, I was doing prepping a show, talking quite a bit about Drake Thomas's performance. And then this came up that Logan Wilson has asked the Cincinnati Bengals for a trade, a guy that I've liked for a long time. I know he had the serious injury 2 years ago that he had to come back from. Some people think he's one of the better coverage linebackers in the league, but he's also a guy that can come up and stack and shed. 29 years old now. He's got a couple years left on a contract that's pretty reasonable to acquire. Is this something you're looking into?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, I try to put together the past 3 or 4 years. I tried to put together my own little top 30 linebacker list, and I think 2 years ago I had him I think I had him like 8th or 9th overall. I thought he was a complete linebacker. I admittedly haven't kept up with him a lot post injury. I don't know like what his ceiling is anymore, but the assignment correctness and the zone coverage is really good. I suspect that's still the case. Now, granted, he's been benched, but that might be a combination of the Bengals just being in complete disarray. They have some young players. They want to see what they've got, and they probably don't intend to keep him around for contract reasons and age reasons. So it might be a case of one man's trash is another man's treasure here. I wouldn't be against it if they want to throw a 5th or 6th round pick, and I imagine that's all it would take. I do think he'd be an upgrade on what Seattle has, and could definitely maybe put Seattle over the hump there. So I would be all for that. That gets a yes for me. So
maybe a pick swap. That seems to be all the rage these days.
There you go.
People are making moves for veterans. All right. Well, with that being said, is there a spot on the defense that it still gives you, and knowing that and assuming that Mike Macdonald is correct, because he's told us before that guys were going to be back and they weren't. But it sounds like we can expect the big three, Derek Hall, Julian Love, as you mentioned, Devin Witherspoon, to all be back for Sunday Night Football against the Commanders. So for the first time all season long, everyone that they want to be on the field on defense will be on the field and ready to go. When that happens, is there still something that gives you pause, that concerns you through the grind of the rest of the season with everything that lies ahead potentially for this team on defense? Let's just keep our focus there, that you think that they do need to go get.
Man, I mean, they really are in good shape right now, roster-wise. I mean, I don't think it's a matter of a need so much as a could use, or if there's just a an obvious upgrade that falls into their lap. I mean, Trey Hendrickson would be fun, right? I mean, their pass rush is humming. It's doing great. They have one of the best D lines in the league, run and pass. If the Bengals want to say, "Hey, will you take Trey off our hands?" for a 3rd round pick or something, I mean, I'm not going to say no. They probably.
Well, you might just do that to keep him out of the hands.
Right.
Of the Niners.
Right. Totally. I mean, Trey. I mean, superficially, he improves the team. Right. But he improves an area that I'm not certain like they need to improve so much. So they should only do it if the cost is extremely beneficial to or advantageous for Seattle. But man, I mean, looking at the roster, it's like I feel really good about the corners. I feel really good about the safeties. We've talked about Will. If they want to upgrade there, they can. D-line, I mean, they're set for right now, I feel. So, I mean, really, I'm not pressed or moved to do anything. If anything, I'd be thinking about maybe right guard. That's probably preaching to the choir there, though. So, I mean, it's, they really are in good shape right now.
Yeah, the right guard one's tough for me just because it's tough to plug a guy in
totally
mid-season to a group that you're always going to have your weak link. And clearly, I think we all agree that even though I think he's playing his best football of his career, he's the weak link on that line. I don't know if I want to mess with that right now.
No, I hear you on that.
I don't know if there's someone out there that's good enough that's going to be available to change my mind about that.
Sure.
That's just a tough one. Let's wrap this, take it all the way full circle and kind of wrap it up where we started it. You used the term that Nick Emmanwori isn't fully realized yet. And part of that is because he's super young and he's only played 4 games in the NFL. And part of that is because, as you pointed out so well, he's playing a limited role right now. I mean, and you talked about this concept in regards to Drake Thomas too, like asking a player to do what he can do well right now, trying to keep him away from the things that are his weaknesses. What a novel concept when it comes to coaching, right? Why doesn't everyone do that? What does a fully realized Nick Emmanwori look like? If you could fast forward 2 years to when you think this guy's got it all figured out, what kind of player, what kind of role, and what kind of player do you think he becomes?
I mean, if his first step is in the right direction of the play, like consistently, which I know that sounds like, okay, well, you could say that about anyone, but like Ernest Jones is an example of that. When you think about the skills he possesses, Nick Emmanwori going the right direction immediately off the snap, I mean, the amount of plays he will make, like plays on the ball, will skyrocket. Ernest Jones can go the right direction every single play. And he's going to make his plays, but he'd make even more if he ran a 4.38, right? Mm-hmm. Ernest Jones is one of the slowest linebackers in the league that is still extremely good. It's like, it's asking, I mean, if Ernest Jones ran a 4.4, it'd be Patrick Willis, but he's not Patrick Willis, right? He
wouldn't be a Seahawk.
Right. He wouldn't be a Seahawk. He'd still be a Ram at this point, which is fine. I mean, not everyone could be, Hall of Famer. You can still just be a perennial Pro Bowler, and I'm okay with that. So, I mean, really, it comes down to diagnosis initially, and then his zone drops. It's when you talk about any zone defender, especially at the second level. So the safeties, the nickels, the linebackers, knowing where to melt and when, how much depth to gain and when to expand, when to shrink, all those things, when to bite on the check down, when not to bite on the check down. I mean, he just needs to understand offensive concepts, pass concepts, and how they're attacking not just his zone, but the overall coverage to inform his own decision-making when he's got eyes on the quarterback, because all of that stuff is you have to reverse engineer the overall picture based off of 2 or 3 pieces of information, what the initial formation was, what the initial stems were, and what the quarterback is looking at. Because at a certain point, it's out of your hands. Like, you don't know what's going on behind you because you can't look. You can only infer or make educated guesses. So the educated guesswork just isn't there yet. And I mean, we remember the Nico Collins drop over the middle, right, from the Texas game, and that was on him. He needed to roll over with that sooner. There was the one that got caught on that. I think that maybe it was the last drive or the penultimate drive where it went right over the top of him. He pushed too much to the strength. He needed to hold his line down the hash. There's examples of Devin doing the exact thing you're supposed to do and then pushing with that over route, and the ball's either going to be a pick or it's not thrown. So the fact that that ball even got thrown is an indicator that he didn't play that zone drop right. So, and that was him. I mean, he was trying to do the right thing. They were playing, what were they playing? I think they were playing cover 2 there, and he's the backside curl defender. He's trying to push so that the defense has 5 defenders over 3 receivers. He just pushes too far into the hook area. Ernest Jones had that area on lock. So by the time he needs to melt back to the weak side, that route has overran him. If he held his line, by the time he melts, the ball wouldn't have been throwable. So it's stuff like that. Once that adds up and you add that to his really good man coverage technique and out of the slot, he's going to be a complete player. So it's initial play diagnosis and then just, understanding offensive pass concepts. And, then it will be 6'3", 230 flying around with his hair on fire. So, until then, it's a matter of time. And he doesn't need to show everything right now to be excited about him, because if he does any of those things well, it will have like an exponential effect for his own game, which you can't say that about every other player. There are players that are like assignment perfect, and it just doesn't matter that much because they run a 4.65 and they're undersized and they got, what I mean? So, but I still think things are looking up for him. Definitely.
Let me ask you a bonus question, and maybe I'll dust this one off again in 2 weeks. Week 11, Seahawks play the Rams in LA, a game that's just looming larger and larger with each week we go by. I think there's a realistic chance, a good chance, I believe, Seahawks go into that game at 7-2. Rams play the 49ers the week before. We're going to get a lot more clarity on the division here in a couple of weeks. What the Rams have done that has made it almost impossible for us to beat them over the last several years is just destroy us in the middle of the field. Like, I'll never forget Puka Nakua's debut week 1 2 years ago, where it was just dig. And that's really the heart of that offense. And it's what we're not the only team that they hurt with that concept. But when I saw the pass deflection, Emmanwori and the drop in the middle of the field, right? And just the makeup speed and the ability to make a read on that, get over and knock the ball down. My first thought was, is this defense, if assuming it's fully healthy in a couple of weeks or healthy enough, does it finally have the pieces in place, the scheme in place, and the right play caller in place to put a dent in that aspect of the Sean McVay Rams offense that has hurt us so badly for so many years?
Absolutely. I don't imagine there will be a lot of gimmies for Stafford. Stafford is the type of quarterback, as we know, that whether or not he decides to throw the ball is based off of, like, there's open and then there's targetable. For Stafford, because of his anticipation, processing, and arm talent, he only needs targetable. So, like, which is to say, like, that's not open, but like it kind of is if you're Stafford type of thing. Right. So when you deal with that, you can play really sound zone coverage, and it may not matter, but you still, because Stafford will make throws. You just need to make it as hard on him as possible. Like, that's the guiding ethos, is just make it as tough as possible. They 100% have the pieces in place to make it as hard on him as they've ever made it before. And at that point, it's like, barring like complete unforeseen breakdowns, like, oh, wait, why did that guy do that? Like, did McVay confuse this player type stuff? They just play their rules. They'll have made it, they'll be able to make it harder on him than they've probably ever made it on him in a long time anyway. So like that gives you enough cause to be, optimistic as a fan and analyst. So, I would love to see, full gear Devin Witherspoon, Julian Love, Emmanwori with a few more games under his belt, Ernest Jones in there with the way the D-line is playing, Byron Murphy coming of age right before our eyes. The past 3 weeks, he's looked like a, all pro run and pass. So yeah, I would definitely say that they've got the best shot they've had in a while.
You have to wonder how much, with that game looming on week 11, how much that played a part in the decision to not play Witherspoon or Love on Monday night. Kind of playing the long game, looking that far ahead. That's Griffin Sturgeon at Seattle Overload, as you see there, the great breakdown podcast that he does with Matty Brown. You can also find him on Twitter at CMikeSpinMove. You tweeted today that you miss Christine Michael. It's been a while. What got you reminiscing?
Oh, nothing in particular. It was just a thought, It was just the thought just came. It was an era bygone, and we can't let it die from our collective memory. So, well,
in a day and age where people like to change their Twitter handles like they change their clothes, I appreciate the commitment to it.
It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere.
Good. Well, Griffin, thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, man. Have a good night.
All right, it's always great to talk to Griffin. Wish we could bring some All-22 with us when he has these conversations, but man, the NFL's cracking down harder than ever on that stuff. That's going to be the last video for the weekend, so enjoy your bye week. If you're like me, I kind of like these bye weeks because it's nice to disengage yourself from any kind of emotion or stress or expectation and just be able to enjoy football. And I'll be doing that tomorrow, just watching Red Zone all day long, watching some of the other teams, and then we'll be back on Monday. A couple of great guests lined up next week. Jeff Simmons will be joining me from Real Hawk Talk. It's always good to catch up with him, get his read on what his expectations are for the second half of the season. And we're going to try as hard as we can to avoid talking about baseball. Jeff's a Blue Jays fan. You get it. Also really excited to have Stacy Rost on the show next week from Bump and Stacy on 710 Seattle Sports. So look forward to that, as well as other stuff. And now, and if you haven't got the memo, got the fiber optic installed. No more internet issues as long as I'm here anyway. So we'll be going live more often as well. Look for a couple of live shows next week as we get ready for Sunday Night Football against the Commanders. Until then, forever and always go Hawks. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.